The boardroom was tense before anyone said a word. A thick report sat on the table, freshly stapled, tabbed, and full of sharp language. Charts, red flags, projections that didn't sound like they came from the men presenting it. This report, one of them said, tapping the cover, was developed by our strategy team. We stand by it. He didn't notice the name, but the CEO did. Sitting at the head of the table, eyes narrowed, he flipped to the last page. His finger stopped on the footer. Then came a question. Who is Kendra Marshall? Silence. Two of the presenters glanced at each other. One stammered, she was on data entry. Nothing major. But the CEO kept reading. Page after page. Annotations. Formatting. Style. He'd seen this voice before. Then, he looked toward the back of the room. Kendra Marshall. Still. Calm. Unmoving. Miss Marshall, he said, did you write this? Silence. Then she stood. Calm. Precise. I wrote it. Every word. The CFO didn't look angry. He looked embarrassed. And Kendra? She walked to the front of the room without another word. Because the truth was already printed. Kendra Marshall didn't speak much during meetings. But her work? It spoke for itself. At 29, she wasn't chasing titles or recognition. She was the one who always got the details right. When a merger report landed in her inbox labeled background research, no one expected her to do more than pull data. But Kendra had a degree in quantitative finance, a minor in behavioral economics, and a gift for spotting what others missed. For 6 weeks, she worked late, not to impress, to get it right. She dissected the acquisition models, flagged inconsistencies in the valuation, drafted a full counterproposal that could save the company millions. She uploaded it quietly to the internal doc server, marked it for senior review, emailed it up the chain. No response. A week passed. Then 2. One morning, she entered a meeting and saw it. Her work, projected on the screen. Same charts, same model, same insights. Only now, presented by 2 executives. No credit, not a single mention. Kendra sat in the back. Still, focused, silent. But she noticed something they didn't. They hadn't scrubbed the document metadata. Her name, Kendra Marshall, was still in the footer. Every page. She didn't say a word, because she didn't need to. Not yet. The CEO was on his way to that meeting. And Kendra knew one thing about him. He always read the footnotes. 10 minutes into the meeting, the room changed. No announcement. No assistant. Just Malcolm Reyes, CEO, walking in alone. Sharp suit, sharper eyes, and a reputation for slicing through nonsense. The executives didn't miss a beat. Gerald and Simon kept talking like nothing had shifted. They dove into their report, trying to sound confident. Kendra sat in the back, silent. Malcolm didn't say much. He just flipped through the pages, chart after chart, simulation after simulation. Then he stopped. The final page, bottom right corner. Whose name is this in the footer? His voice wasn't loud, but the room froze. Gerald blinked. Simon stuttered. I'm not sure, sir. Malcolm looked up. I was told this was your team's work. The temperature dropped. Gerald stammered again. Our team reviewed and whose name is in the footer? Malcolm didn't blink, didn't raise his voice, but the silence cracked. Then Kendra stood up. No dramatics, just clarity. That would be me, sir. Every head turned, as if they hadn't noticed she was even in the room. When did you submit this? Malcolm asked. 3 weeks ago, through internal strategy channels. Who responded? No one. He let that hang in the air, like a pause before a verdict. Then he said, sit at the table. Kendra walked forward, pulled out a chair, sat across from him. For the first time in this company, she was no longer in the background. She was at the table. And Malcolm? He turned to the others and said, I've heard your version. Now let's hear hers. The executive strategy boardroom felt like a vault. No noise, no movement, just sharp lines, glass walls, and the kind of silence that made people sit straighter. Kendra had walked past this room for almost 2 years. She'd never been invited inside. Until now, she sat at the obsidian table. 12 senior executives stared at her, like a system glitch had wandered in. Gerald and Simon? Gone. Malcolm had asked them to step outside. Now it was just Kendra and the decision-makers. Malcolm gestured to the screen. "Walk us through your framework." Kendra didn't hesitate. She had rehearsed this moment in her head for weeks. She pulled up the first slide. "The issue with the Maverin proposal," she began, "is that it hides liability behind synthetic bundling." Page 7 lit up. She circled the breakdown. ROI projections, false triggers, buried risk language. Executives leaned in. No one interrupted. Not once. Slide by slide, Kendra dismantled the deal. Debt ratios, audit flags, contractual gaps. Her voice was steady, her logic bulletproof. When she reached her recommendation, terminate the deal, freeze liquidity migration, the room went silent. The CFO finally spoke. "And you submitted this how?" "Through internal compliance," Kendra said. 3 weeks ago. I followed protocol. Why wasn't it elevated?" Malcolm didn't respond. He didn't need to. The silence said everything. One VP cleared her throat. "This changes everything." Kendra nodded. "It should." Another exec, the head of risk, just said, "She's right." Then came the moment. Malcolm turned, looked directly at her. "Effective immediately, you report to me." The table shifted, not physically, socially. She wasn't an assistant, not a helper, not a background analyst. She had just saved them from a multi-million-dollar mistake. And now, they saw her as she truly was. Essential, irreplaceable, undeniable. The applause faded fast. By Monday, Kendra's inbox had doubled, not with praise, but with doubt. CCs from people who never emailed her before. Requests to clarify methodology. Questions about data she'd already validated. It wasn't praise. It was pressure, wrapped in politeness, laced with resentment. Malcolm stood by her publicly, but he couldn't block every side eye or cold shoulder. Gerald and Simon weren't fired, just gone, under internal review. Corporate exile. But their allies? Still here, still bitter, still powerful. A quiet campaign began, not loud enough to name, but sharp enough to feel. An analyst restructured her charts without asking. Another tried to replicate her findings, and failed, publicly. Malcolm made him explain why. He folded. But what hurt most wasn't the sabotage. It was the silence. People she used to nod to in the hallway. Looked away. Interns who once asked for advice. Avoided eye contact. She wasn't one of them anymore. She was something else. A warning. At a compliance meeting, they forgot to include her. She showed up anyway. Sat at the head. Took notes. Didn't flinch. The meeting ended early. Faster than usual. Later, she overheard someone whisper, "She's acting like she owns the place." She didn't respond, but she smiled, because something had shifted. Not just perception. Leverage. Her report had been cited in investor meetings. Her data used in legal memos. Her work had weight now. And weight changes everything. Because once the truth is undeniable, so is the person who exposed it. They didn't have to like her. They couldn't unsee her. 2 weeks later, a senior strategy offsite was announced. An all-hands meeting. Downtown. Top floor. No virtual links. Just decision-makers in a room. Kendra's name? Not on the list. She wasn't surprised. But silence hits different when you're visible. That same night, Malcolm forwarded her the agenda. No subject line. No emojis. Just a note. You should be in this. It wasn't a question. It was permission. She didn't ask for clarification. She booked a seat. 15 minutes early. Laptop ready. Data queued. Eyes forward. Gerald was there. Paler than before. Simon too. Avoiding eye contact. Whispering behind his hand. Someone from legal blinked when she walked in. Another exec actually asked, "Are you presenting something?" She said, "Not yet," and took her seat. On the screen, a revised risk dashboard. Clear. Precise. Her watermark across the bottom. Proprietary. Authored by Kendra Dorsey. Footer locked. Time-stamped. Undeniable. She didn't speak first. She didn't need to. One by one, executives began referring to her models, using her terminology, following her slides. And then, a joke from the VP of Global Expansion. "So this is what happens when interns become watchdogs." A few chuckled. until Malcolm leaned in. Deadpan. Sharp. She's the reason we didn't sign a flawed deal. A pause. Let's not diminish that. Silence. Sharp, heavy silence. You could hear pen stop. Air hold. Kendra didn't blink. She advanced to the final slide. 5 bullet points. 3 deadlines. 2 compliance flags. At the bottom, prepared by Kendra Dorsey, strategic analyst. Not a title she was given, a title she earned, and no one dared dispute it. There was no parade, no public apology, no LinkedIn post with her face on it. Just quiet fallout. Gerald was laterally transferred. Simon pursued new opportunities. HR wrapped it in silence. No mention of Kendra. Not once. And that was fine. She didn't need the spotlight. She already had the leverage. 2 days later, a new meeting invite hit her inbox. Subject line, strategy review, lead presentation. Sender, Malcolm Reyes. No assistant, no middleman. Attached note, ready to make it official? The meeting wasn't long, 20 minutes max, but it changed everything. Malcolm laid out a new internal unit. Compliance plus data strategy. Reporting directly to him. No bureaucracy, no gatekeepers. He wanted Kendra to run it. She didn't blink, didn't gloat, didn't ask who else was considered. She just asked, what kind of authority comes with it? Malcolm smiled. All of it. Her first act? She rewrote the project template used company-wide. Every document now required. Author name, division, date, all footers locked, all metadata preserved. If someone tried to erase it, the system would flag. Automatically. She didn't call it revenge. She called it infrastructure. Weeks later, she passed Gerald in the lobby. He looked away. Simon? Block her on LinkedIn. But she wasn't looking for enemies. She was building policy. In her new office. Not the biggest, but with a view. She unpacked slowly. One framed photo of her mother. A ceramic mug. And the report they once tried to steal. Still creased. Still signed at the bottom. K. Dorsey. She pinned it behind her desk. Not as a warning. As a reminder that the loudest retaliation is documentation. No screaming, no threats, just receipts and a name in the footer that no one could erase again.